Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. You ready to dig into some history with me today?
Always. What we got?
This time, we're heading back to Roman Britain.
Ooh, good one.
We've got some awesome source material to work with. Really gets into why the Romans even set their sights on this island.
Well, yeah, I mean, it wasn't exactly known for, tropical beaches and sunshine, was it?
Uh-huh. No, not really.
Hmm.
More like, chilly winds and lots of rain, so
Yeah.
why bother? Well, that's exactly what we're going to uncover today. We'll be looking at the Roman ambition, the rebellions they faced, and the lasting impact their presence had on Britain, even to this day.
Sounds like a plan.
Now, before we get into the Roman invasion, we need to talk about who was already there.
Right, the folks who called Britain home before the legions marched in.
Exactly. So let's paint a picture of pre-Roman Britain.
Okay, so imagine this. You've got these skilled artisans, Celts, creating amazing metalwork, think intricate designs, beautiful weaponry.
Wow, yeah, I've seen some of that stuff in museums. It's really incredible.
And their lives, they were deeply connected to nature. They had their own traditions, beliefs, ways of life.
Very different from the structured, organized world of the Romans.
Oh, absolutely. And it's that contrast, that clash of cultures that makes this period so fascinating.
So we've got these vibrant Celtic communities living their lives, and then along come the Romans. What was it that drew them to Britain?
Ambition, mostly. The Roman Empire was already huge, right?
Oh, yeah, spanning across much of Europe at that point.
Right. But they weren't satisfied. Britain offered a lot resources.
Resources like.
Well, think gold, tin, iron, fertile land, all valuable stuff.
Okay, that makes sense. I guess word got around about Britain's riches.
It wasn't just about practicality, though. Adding Britain to their empire, well, it meant major prestige for a Roman emperor. Glory.
Ah, so it was about power and reputation, too, kind of like collecting trophies almost.
Sort of, yeah. They wanted to prove they could conquer this wild, untamed land, which, didn't go so well at first.
You're talking about Julius Caesar's attempts, right?
Yeah, exactly. In 54 and 55 BC, he tried to invade, but ultimately had to retreat.
But hold on, why is it important to talk about these failed attempts? I mean, doesn't it make Caesar look kind of weak?
I guess it could be seen that way, but actually, those failures tell us something really important. They show us just how determined the Romans were.
Okay, so they weren't easily discouraged.
Nope, not at all. And they learned from their mistakes, too. Fast forward to AD 43, and you've got Emperor Claudius stepping up.
Round two of the Roman invasion.
This time, things are different. They landed in Kent with a massive force, thousands of soldiers, highly trained, well-equipped, and with a much clearer strategy.
And they actually succeeded this time. What happened to the Celts who were living there? Did they just give up?
Well, they faced a tough choice. Submit to Roman rule, which meant paying taxes, following Roman law, or resist.
I can't imagine that went down easily with everyone.
You're right, it didn't. Some tribes chose to cooperate, figuring it was the best way to protect their people. They were allowed to keep some of their autonomy, keep their own leaders.
So it's like a, if you can't beat them, join them sort of thing.
In a way, yeah, but over time, as the Romans tightened their grip, things got more complicated.
What do you mean?
Well, they started claiming more and more land for themselves, imposing heavier taxes, and, well, that sparked a lot of resentment.
People don't like being pushed around, especially on their own land.
Exactly. And that resentment boils over with one of the most famous figures in British history, Boudica.
Ah, the warrior queen. I remember learning about her in school.
Her story is incredible. She was the queen of the Iceni tribe, and after her husband died, the Romans basically betrayed their agreement with him. They humiliated her daughters.
That's awful.
Yeah, it was a brutal power play. And it ignited a firestorm. Boudica, she was not someone to back down.
So she fought back.
Oh, big time. She rallied an army, and we're not talking a small band of rebels here. Some estimates say she had 200,000 warriors.
Wow, that's a massive force.
Yeah.
Did she actually win any battles?
She did. She led her army to victory against the Romans at Colchester, London, and was even marching towards St. Albans. Can you imagine the chaos, the Romans being pushed back like that?
It's pretty amazing, especially considering how powerful the Romans were. But it didn't last, did it?
No, sadly. Despite their numbers, her forces just couldn't match the Roman legions.
You mentioned their legions, their training. What was it about the Romans that gave them such an edge?
They were incredibly organized, disciplined. Think about it. Standardized weaponry, formations, battle tactics, centuries of military experience backing them up.
A well-oiled fighting machine.
Exactly, and their armor, their weaponry, it was just more advanced. The Celts fought bravely, fiercely, but in the end, it wasn't enough.
So what happened to Boudica?
The sources differ on whether she was captured or took her own life rather than surrender, but either way, her defeat at the Battle of Watling Street was a turning point in Roman Britain.
It must have been devastating for the Britons.
Absolutely. But even in defeat, Boudica's legacy is powerful.
What do you think makes her story so enduring, even centuries later?
I think it's that spirit of defiance, that unwillingness to bow down to oppression. She showed the Romans and everyone who came after that even the mightiest empires can be challenged.
It's a reminder that history is made by real people with real courage and convictions.
Exactly.
Okay, so Boudica's revolt was crushed. What happened next? Did Roman control just become absolute after that?
It was a turning point, that's for sure. The Romans, they weren't messing around anymore. But rather than pure brute force, they focused on this process of Romanization.
Romanization, huh? What does it even mean?
It was their way of, well, making Britain more Roman.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How did they do that?
Well, first, infrastructure. The Romans were masters of building, right? They constructed roads, cities, villas, bathhouses.
I've been to Bath, England. Those Roman baths are incredible.
Right, so they're bringing in these very visible symbols of Roman culture. And it wasn't just buildings, they also introduced their laws, their gods, their language.
So it was a kind of cultural takeover.
To some extent, yeah. And as more and more Celts gained Roman citizenship, they adopted aspects of Roman culture. They saw the benefits, the opportunities that came with being part of the Roman world.
Interesting. I mean, on one hand, it's impressive how the Romans could integrate conquered people like that. But was it really a choice for the Britons?
That's the debate, isn't it? How much of it was genuine integration versus forced assimilation? It probably varied from place to place, person to person.
So no easy answers in history then.
Not usually, but that's part of what makes it so fascinating to study. We're always piecing together different perspectives, trying to understand the complexities.
Makes sense. So the Romans ruled Britain for about 300 years after Boudica's revolt. What kind of lasting impact did they have? I mean, we still see those Roman ruins all over Britain, but it's got to be more than that, right?
Oh, way more. Their influence is everywhere if you know where to look. Think language, for starters.
You mean like how English has so many words with Latin roots?
Exactly. And then there's law. Roman legal principles had a huge impact on the development of English common law. Even some of our ideas about government and citizenship have Roman roots.
Wow, that's pretty deep. It's like they laid the foundation for so much of what Britain became.
They definitely shaped the landscape, both literally and figuratively. Look at a map of Britain, and you'll still see those straight roads the Romans built, connecting towns and cities, and even the grid patterns of some cities. That's a Roman influence.
It's mind-blowing to think about how decisions made centuries ago can still be felt today. It really makes you think about the ripple effects of history.
Right. And in the case of Roman Britain, those ripples are still spreading.
Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into Roman Britain. Thanks for joining us as we explore the ambition that drove the Romans, the clashes of cultures, and the enduring legacy that continues to shape Britain today.
It's really a fascinating period, isn't it?
Totally. I mean, we could spend hours talking about all the details, the different perspectives.
Yeah.
But hey, maybe that's a deep dive for another day.
There's always more to uncover.
Exactly. And, it leaves me wondering, what would Britain be like today if the Roman invasion had never happened?
Ooh, that's a big what if. Would it be a completely different place?
Right. The language, the culture, the laws. Would any of it be the same?
Fascinating thought to ponder, for sure.
We'll leave you with that thought-provoking question. Until next time.